Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for something that I've wanted to review to you guys for a while now, but I told you guys, but I promised myself I was not going to review this to you guys till I was completely done with it, and that is for my review of the HBO miniseries documentary, The Jinx, The Life and Death of Robert Durst. Now, I didn't know too much about this documentary. In fact, I wasn't originally going to watch it because documentaries, guys, they're not really my thing. They're not. Um, I don't really like documentaries. I'm not someone that can just sit down and watch a documentary. If it has a lot of factual detail and it's interesting to me, then yeah, sure, I'll watch it. But I prefer to show it rather than tell it. I prefer dramatizations or biographies and things like that. I don't really prefer. I don't really like to watch documentaries. There are some that I've seen that are very good, and I didn't really know too much about the story. I originally wasn't going to watch it, but I decided, you know what, I want to watch it. It's on HBO. HBO has never disappointed me with any of their programming. I've never seen a bad show from HBO. And overall, after watching it, what did I think of the Jinx, The Life and Death of Robert Durst? This was an amazing documentary. Like, wow, guys. And the thing is, this could have easily been very boring. It could have been. It could have been very dry, very boring, and it really wasn't boring. And it was just such an interesting story, especially because the thing that worked the best about it is that it was based on true events. And, well, not based on true events, it was all a documentary, and it all really happened. And let's just get into the plot of The Jinx and Life and Death of Robert Durst. Basically, there's this man, Robert Durst, who for years now, he has been. Now, I didn't know anything about this man really because of course I wasn't really alive when he committed these murders and everything. And for years there have been three unsolved trials with him that have been unsolved. And this guy Andrew Jericho, who made a movie to basically called All Good Things years ago. I didn't, in 2009, I didn't realize that movie is about Robert Durst. He did that as a way to get Robert Durst to have an interview and sit down with him and see maybe if he really would do these murders. So they started investigating, and there are three murders that this really focuses on. The first one is this guy Morris Black, who we don't know exactly what happened to him. We know that Durst um, possibly, most likely, dumped his body in a bay. Then there is his wife, Kathy Durst, who she has been disappeared for 15 years and still no progression has been made. And then there is this girl, Susan Berman, who was very loyal to him and was also mysteriously murdered. So there are three unsolved murders. They're all trying to figure out what's going on here. And the question really is he really crazy? Is he really a serial killer? Or is he really just a man that we feel for? And for a while, I just found that to be a very interesting topic. I mean, just the way they did that. And we have more and more clues as it goes on. I have to say, one of the things I like about this show is this miniseries, how maniacal it really was. Because this man himself, Robert Durst, was a very maniacal person, and he still is a very maniacal person. I mean, just by his voice, he has such like a scruffy voice, and he has such a menacing voice. He has no emotion whatsoever. When he talks, you don't see any emotion in him, and I really do love that. That's what makes a great serial killer. And when we first saw him, though, I kind of felt for him, I have to say, and that's something that I definitely really enjoyed. Is that it really tricks you into feeling for him because I mean he really had a terrible childhood. I mean his mother drowned herself. He was very close to his mother and she died, and you can see how messed up his life really was, and you can understand why he would do the things he did. And for a while I'm like, no, there's no way that happened, because the second chapter primarily focuses on him and Kathy Durst. Now, they did not have the best relationship. I really want to talk about their relationship the most because it's the most interesting of the three stories to me. And that's because of what the story basically is. Basically, these two were together, and all we know is that when they got married, they started fighting. It started getting really bad between them, and she kept getting scared that he was going to hurt her and was worried that he was going to hit her and things like that. And she was even worried that he would seriously injure her. And to me, it just sounded like Gone Girl. You know, in Gone Girl, how like they tried to cover up things? To me, that's what this seemed like. It seemed like to me that she was just playing the victim card. And in many ways, I felt for him. I thought that she left him and just blamed him for it. That's what I thought happened. However, as time went on, you can tell that there's definitely more to that besides that. Um, you know, you can tell there is a lot more to this story besides that. Because first of all, you can tell when you hear what Durst says. Half of the stuff that he says, the most interesting part of this miniseries are the interviews between him and Andrew Jericho, and you really get to see his point of view, how he feels about these things, and everything he's saying. None of it really makes a whole lot of sense, and I understand he's trying to justify what he did, but they do say that you can't believe anything he says because he's so maniacal. And honestly, as time went on, I started to believe that because I didn't believe a thing that he said. Anything that he said seemed maniacal to me. Anything he said, he put no emotion into it whatsoever. It seemed really well thought out and just really very detailed. And he was very broad about things as well. Like for example, if someone would bring up a murder to him, like if Jericho brought up a murder to him, he'd be like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to discuss that. I have no idea what you're talking about. I was not involved in that. And anytime something like that came up, he would do that. He'd say, I was not involved. I had nothing to do with that. And the more he did, I'm like, there is definitely something he's hiding. There's no way that he is telling the truth here. There's no way. I mean, just the way he was being so secret about things, you could tell that he was hiding, that he definitely was not telling the truth. You can just tell that. Now, the other one that focuses is Morris Black, which I thought was interesting, but not as interesting as it, could have been. And then there's also uh, Susan Berman. Now, Susan Berman, when Kathy Durst was disappeared, Susan Berman stuck by Durst. She did whatever she could to make sure that he was not guilty of her murder because she was his best friend and everything, and she really did whatever she could to do there. However, in 2002 or to that 2000, I believe, she mysteriously disappeared, and we don't know what happened to her. She was murdered, and when that happened, I'm like, you know what, Durst could have done it, and Durst could have done it, but I don't think he did it on purpose. I think he did because she wanted him to. I think she did it because she wanted it to look like, he. I think she did it because she didn't want him to seem like he was the one that did it, so he just did it so it didn't seem like he did it. But the weird thing is, of course, he didn't attend the funeral, which is even stranger. Probably because she didn't tell him to, which I find very interesting. Then there are those letters, of course. The letter that supposedly the killer sent to her, he claims he did not send it. And again, it just seems like something she'd tell him to do. It just seems very maniacal, and I definitely really enjoyed that. The other thing I love about this series is we get input on everybody in this show. Everybody who is a victim, we get input on. We see Kathy Durst's family, um, her friend who is extremely concerned, her mother who is pissed that there's no progression being made to the case and that it's just stayed open and that they haven't done anything. Because really, just the fact that it's taken 15 years for this case to be reopened is insane that happened. And it really just shows how maniacal he really is and how crazy of a person he really is. And that's something I definitely really like seeing. It's just, I mean, again, this isn't a dramatization of it. This is a real life thing, and it's taken 15 years for them to actually think about this and for them to actually, have some sort of, for them to actually think about it. And I think the reason is because none of them are dumb. None of them are dumb. They're not idiots, and that's something I definitely really enjoy. They all can tell when he's lying. They can tell there's something else going on. I definitely really enjoyed that because if they would have gotten idiots, then this would have been a total disaster, but they're not idiots. They can see through him. They can see when he's lying. They can see when he's not telling the truth, and I really enjoyed that. And I think that was really good as well. We see Susan Berman's son, who he really doesn't want to believe that Durst did these things. He didn't realize that his mother was murdered till he was a teenager, and what's interesting is that she was murdered a day after he was born, and it's actually very sad to hear that, but he didn't know too much about it, and ever since then he's done like investigations about it, and he really doesn't want to think that Durst did it. He wants to think there was a close, he just wants to think that it was just some unknown person that did it, but it doesn't seem likely. It just seems like it was someone unknown that did it, and you can tell that Durst did it. I mean, you could just tell that he did it. And I'm not saying these people aren't stupid. I'm just saying that sometimes we like to think the best. We like to think the best about people. And it really shows that when you see a person and you know them and you know how close they were with someone, you see the best in them. You don't want to see them as like this villainous person. And I think that's really why people didn't suspect Durst. Because if you look at him, he seems like a nice guy. He really does. I mean, in those interviews, he seems like a really nice guy. He seems like a very laid back guy, but you could see right through him. You can totally see right through him, and that's something I definitely really enjoy, as I said. The other thing I think that worked really well were the dramatizations, which, oh my god, they were amazing. Such descriptive dramatizations, and the way they do them are so well done. There's this one in episode 2 with his mother, the cinematography, oh my god, it was breathtaking to watch. Breathtaking, and I loved it. I loved seeing the dramatizations because we really get inside his head here, and you start to think about why he would do the things he did. I mean, for example, one of the things he did is there was a trial that he was involved in, and in order to make himself, arrested and arrest himself, he dressed up as a woman and robbed a bank, which is kind of weird that he did, but you can kind of see his point. He did this so he could get arrested and basically tell them that he is not the person that did this. And because of that, he still owes a lot of money, apparently. A lot, because I looked at Robert Durst, and he still owes like a lot of money to the people that he stole from, which I find very interesting. And again, it just shows how long things take to get closed, how long it takes to close cases. And I think that was also very well done. Something I definitely really enjoyed by far was that. Also, this really makes you more interested in this. It makes you think, why didn't this get more news coverage? Because I can't remember hearing the name Robert Durst before this. I can't. His name sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember hearing the name Robert Durst. I really couldn't. And if this miniseries would have been created, I couldn't really tell you anything about Robert Durst before I saw this. All I knew is that there was an HBO documentary about him, and I was very intrigued by it. So just knowing that they didn't really show a lot of it, and also portraying him as like not really knowing, him getting off innocent in that case, I thought was also very interesting. But that was because of how good he was with his lawyer. To me, though, it seemed like he kind of bribed his lawyer. It seemed like to me he made him look like his lawyer, said all the right things, that he would pay him and get a good pay and everything, good income. Because I mean, lawyers want money and everything, so I think that Durst teamed up with him and told him, make me look as innocent as possible, make me look like I didn't do anything. And that brings me to my next point, which these are spoilers in the finale. If you guys don't know, though, on the news, this is everywhere. Durst was arrested recently. He was finally arrested because he did kill Susan Berman. And I'm going to talk about something that I love that the finale did. Because most of the finale, of course, was the interview between Jericho and Durst. And again, Durst really doesn't want to answer his questions. Durst is being very broad about it, but then we see why. Because we see, of course, at the ending that Durst is there and he feels terrible about what he did. He feels such, you can tell he feels such remorse. I mean, you just hear him saying, "What the hell did I do? Why did I do this? I killed all those people." I mean, he doesn't realize the man he's become, and he doesn't know how to change himself, and he can't change himself. And it's really sad to think, but he can't change himself, and it's really sad, but he's gonna end up in the he's gonna if they don't put him in the electric chair, I'm gonna be very surprised. Because he killed 3 people, and these are 3 murders. I understand that Kathy's is still unsolved, but Susan Berman, he was found guilty of killing Susan Berman, and that's that. The way they ended it, I really do like, because it's a really ambiguous ending of, do you think he's crazy or not? To me, do I think he's crazy? No, I think he's a man that went crazy, and now he is starting to realize what he did was wrong, but he can't justify it. There's nothing he can do to justify what he did wrong. I think Durst really does understand that. I think Durst really does feel bad for what he did. Definitely, you can tell that he feels bad, and I do feel bad for him. I really do. I wish that it would have turned out better for him, but it really didn't, and it's really sad to see that. But I mean, just seeing Kathy's family's reaction, seeing all, that's something else I really like, is seeing the reactions. You really feel for these characters. I mean, not characters, but you really feel for these people. You felt for Durst, you do. I mean, you feel bad for him, and I felt bad for him in that final scene. I'm like, well, if you wouldn't have done all those murders, then none of this would have happened. And I really did feel bad for him in that sense. But then there's the part of me that says, well, you know what? You did this to yourself. So there is that as well. But of course, seeing Kathy's family and all of them, you really feel bad for them, because, the whole story with Susan and her father being a gangster and everything. I thought that was very interesting as well. And when they introduced her in the 3rd chapter, I thought was very well done. Because again, guys, this was composed of 6 chapters, and I think every chapter was better than the last. Every chapter provided us with more and more information, and I love that. And one of the things I loved about chapter 5 last week was that it just focused on now, how Durst is now, how he is as a person now, and seeing how scared he is. I think that's really why they haven't done much coverage about it, because they made this miniseries, because Durst is very secretive and doesn't like to talk much, and he's a very quiet person, and he is very broad about things. And he definitely is a serial killer, but he doesn't really want to be anymore. So that's basically my review of the Jinx, the Life and Death of Robert Durst. Let me know what you guys saw this miniseries. Overall, guys, I thought this miniseries was amazing. I loved it. Again, guys, it could have been really boring, and I really got into it. I was surprised by how into it I really got. Definitely, every episode gets an A+. Absolutely loved it. It's an amazing miniseries. If you guys have not seen it, definitely check it out. It is amazing to watch. It'll make you care more about his story, and it'll really make you think about serial killers. It also humanizes serial killers. As I said, it humanized him, and I definitely really enjoyed that. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in my next video, which is my review for tonight's episode of Shameless. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.